Good morning. Here we are getting ready to jump into Proverbs chapter 5 and for a morning devotional time. And I want to begin by reading the first 4 verses to you, reading from the English Standard Version. My son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. A great illustration that I've heard and have used before regarding the sin of adultery and really the sin of so many things is that sin always looks good, but in the end, there's a price to pay. I enjoy going fishing, and many guys do enjoy going fishing, and there are lots of different types of fishing. But one of the ways that we enjoy going fishing is by using a lure. What is a lure? By the very word lure, you're trying to lure the fish, but it lures them in. It's something that looks good. It's something that looks tasty. It's something that the fish want to have. But what they don't see, what the fish don't see, and what they don't realize is that by being attracted to those very things, it goes after them and goes to swallow them and gets hooked. They don't see the hook. It's something. It's also the hook in fishing. My grandmother used to make. We used to go fishing for catfish and carp in the Ohio River, and we would have this thing called dough ball. That it was a sweet mixture of cornmeal and some stuff, and we would put it all around the hook. And so the fish would see that and think, I've never seen that around in normal nature, but it smells good and it's lovely. So they go after it and they bite and boom, there's a hook inside. And see, that's exactly what he says here about adultery. That he says that in the end, she is bitter as wormwood. And I think about that when you're standing there holding the fish up, right? Taking the picture. Bitter as wormwood for that fish because he shouldn't have gone after it. Shouldn't have been lured by the lure. Should have just stayed far away. And that's exactly what he says. He says, listen, adultery, the lips of a forbidden woman will lead you down that path. Her feet go down to death, her steps to follow to the path of Sheol. And so he says in verse 8 to keep your way far from her. Do not go near the door of her house. And so he says, listen, this is what you need to do. Men and women need to be wise in how we live and how we operate, how we do daily life. There are so many people who fall into this trap because they don't set up good parameters. They don't do what is wise. They don't keep far away. They fool around with situations when they really should not. He says in verse 15, really the remedy for this is enjoying the spouse that you have. He says, drink water from your own cistern. That's what he's talking about is enjoy the blessing that God has given you in your own wife or your own husband, and stay far away from the adulterous woman. Now, this is something that he says in verse 23, that he dies for lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray. The great folly is thinking, I'll never get caught. It won't happen to me. He lacks discipline, so there's not the maybe self-control that is needed there. And so anything that in our life could lead towards these are things that we need to set up and be wise about. Because while the movies may make these things seem glamorous, in the end, it's bitter. In the end, it is bitter. I have read so many letters of pastors and other people, other guys mainly, who have talked about the destruction that has occurred in their life because of adultery. And so we are called to love God and to love others, namely our spouse. And I hope that you will find encouragement from God's word to heed the warnings of this, to stay far away. Don't get hooked like the fish. Don't get hooked. Stay far away and be wise. May the Lord richly bless you this day.